All right, welcome back to another backtesting session. This is episode 8, I believe, and today I'm going to do a few things different than what I have been doing. So if you've tuned into some of the other episodes, I've been backtesting an entire year, 2025, and then I'm going to go back to the previous years, so then 2024, 2023, etc., until I get 10,000 reps, and this is on top of my live trading. The idea is want to get in those reps because reps equal mastery. Now, back testing is not a replacement for live trading, of course, but you can do a ton of work in back testing, familiarizing yourself with reading price, with your model, your emotions, and all kinds of things. Like I've previously would even notice in the past, I could go tilt on back testing. So what does that say? Like if you're tilting in back testing, you're absolutely going to tilt like live trading. So I do believe in back testing for a way to work out like 80% of the kinks, and then from there taking it to live trading. Now, a few things I'm going to do differently. Or a couple of quick things too. If you want to join my free Discord, there's a link below. Just come on in, hang out. It would be great to get to know other traders on the same journey, and I'm happy to answer questions about what I do and all of that. Now, with this backtesting session, there's two things I'm going to do differently. The first is I'm actually going to stop backtesting 2025. And the reason is that as I'm recording this on January 2nd, I want to go and backtest Januaries. And there's a reason for that. Let me show you. So I'll pull this up. So here we're looking at a screenshot of the daily chart for January, NQ January on 2025. Now, this was my first year live trading NQ in January. And this price action, it wasn't great and it kind of chewed me up. And so for this year-long backtesting series, I started in February just because I knew I didn't even want to backtest January. So for me, I have a little bit of a hesitation towards January and trading it because of this price action. We can see it was basically just in a consolidation, sort of seek and destroy kind of mode on the daily chart. But if we look at other Januaries, so here is 2024. Look at this, a nice manipulation and expansion in 2024. And then in 2023, we did have the similar kind of thing, a little bit of a consolidation, but then an expansion. And 2022, just an expansion towards sell side. So when I saw this, that not all Januaries need to be this kind of garbage, and just to note here for this year in particular, this was the transition for the election. So the whole election year was a little bit more difficult, I believe. And then this January before the inauguration was consolidation. So that's the reason why I want to go and stop backtesting 2025 and go back, and I'm just going to do the Januaries before we roll into January of this year, just so I have a better idea of what to expect coming up in this next month of live trading. So that's the reason why I'm going to switch to Januaries. The other thing I'm doing differently is you'll notice my account balance. Here's the backtesting session I'm working on. I started with a $50,000 balance because on my trading view, that's what it shows. Like I'm trading 150K, and then I'll copy trade behind the scenes to all the other accounts. So for this backtesting session for 2024, I switched it over to trading the full amount of all of my accounts, or well, half of my accounts copy traded is this right here. And so that way I'll be risking the full amount and earning the full risk, full reward, just to see how that changes my psychology. So in this instance, in this 50K account, I'm risking 250 per trade. And then here on this $800,000 account, I think it's 2,000 per trade that I'll be risking. It'll be more representative of when I start the copy trading and trading at full scale. So I was just curious to see how that would help my psychology. If I'm sitting here seeing $2,000 losses and $6,000 wins, is that going to help me backtesting this session or in live trading when I'm seeing $250 losses and $750 wins? So that kind of thing. So yeah, that's I guess that's the overview of what I'm doing here. So let's dive in. I'm gonna get my face head here. Okay, got that head. So then that said, let's dive into the charts. All righty. Let's play this session here. And we got I got the economic calendar up. So Monday, January 1st is the bank holiday, right? So there's no news on the 2nd. We have FOMC meeting minutes, ISM at 2, ADP non-farm, unemployment claims. We do have non-farm this week. And we do have ISM on Friday as well. So what that probably means is this is going to be an interesting. So, oh wait, there's special rules actually for non-farm on a bank holiday. Now that I recall, it doesn't happen all that often. So I don't know them off the top of my head, but let me take a look here. Okay, so it's if there's a banking holiday within the week that it's a little bit different. But ultimately, Monday and Tuesday are supposed to be your most favorable days on non-farm. And then obviously after non-farm drops is favorable, with Wednesday and Thursday being potentially less favorable. So in this case, we'll see what we get. Being a day after a banking holiday should be okay-ish, but it's also non-farm week. So I'll be on my toes. And then, yeah, so the goal here, the whole goal why I want to switch over is I just want to see if Januaries are worth trading funded, because I have a belief that they're not. But based off of what I just showed you on the screenshots, it's actually possible that that it is totally worth trading Januaries funded. Now, I know one of my mentors, Hydra, he does not trade January on funded. Instead, he trades eval only until at least February is what he does. So that was the other reason why I wanted to see for myself, because you can't always trust everything your mentors say. In part, you have to learn it for yourself to truly understand the meaning of what they say and why they say it. Otherwise, it's just like a rule. You don't know why it's there, and then you break it and all of that. So it's important that we find out for ourselves. All right, so I'm going to focus instead of talking. So we do have buy side just taken. So we're looking here at the weekly chart. We do have buy side just taken. So obviously internal to external, that kind of means could expect some kind of retracement back down into one of these fair value gaps. So obviously the weekly here, we're bullish. We've just taken buy side, could expect some means of retracement. Kind of do have I'm going to put this fair value gap here. I'm going to do something slightly different on this backtesting session. I'm going to draw some of the higher time frame stuffs. Oh, right. My plan doesn't have the monthly. I downgraded TradeZella a while back, and I lost the couple of things I wanted was the monthly chart. So we do have this fair value gap here. Let's take a look at ES and YM. Oh, I think something needs to be set. Symbol interval. Is interval it? Probably. There we go. All right, so now we're looking at them on the weekly. We can see ES has taken its previous all-time high. We can see that YM has done the same. So within this candle here, we can see a little bit of a gap there too. No gap on YM. Okay. So here on the daily, we just took a tailless candle. And there's this volume imbalance down here that I'm noting. And we do have liquidity here. here. And then obviously new all-time high. So what I was going to do here, I feel like I tend to forget to go back to the weekly and the daily chart. So I was just going to have some of these drawings right there. That way I could easily see the higher time frame levels. So what time is it? Let's check that out first. I think so it's Friday, December 29th. Before I go any further, so we want to go fast forward. We want to get to Tuesday morning. So here is Monday. Okay, 1900, 8 o'clock. So there's Asia. All right, so here's London. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock candle, 8 o'clock candle. So here's the 9 o'clock. All right, just let me get my bearings. 9:30. Okay. All right. So that'll make a difference, actually. And I do want to zoom out again to the weekly, because now this gap has been filled in on the weekly. Oh, right. So that forms a new weekly candle because we didn't quite see the Sunday open. So I'm going to leave that as just a fair value gap. Let's look at the daily. So it took previous day low already. Here on the 4 hour, I want to look at the correlated assets, see if I'm going to change my mouse real quick, see if I can get it to scroll quicker. Sometimes doing that helps it scroll faster. Looking for SMT up here at the highs. All right, we do have some bearish SMT forming. We do have a 4 hour change in state of delivery. Overall, you know, price action is bullish with a retracement on the 4 hour. So here we have some, well, this gap's already been filled, so I kind of would have liked it better for any sort of long. If you can see this candle here, we have this fair value gap. This candle here already balanced this fair value gap out and mitigated this tailless candle down in here. So I don't like that it's coming back down into this zone in terms of being long. Let's look on the 1 hour chart. I don't want this indicator to show on the one thing about starting a new backtesting session, you have to reconfigure everything. So I'm looking for any 1 hour inefficiencies. We do have a pair of equal lows right here on the 1 hour and a gap right down in there. All right, so let's look at the overnight. So Asia kind of more or less consolidated. Asia and London a little bit. There isn't so much of a manipulation here. Let's check out. So there was SMT to send it lower. We can see that both ES and YM took Asia's high and then sunk. So we have no news today on Tuesday. So that took a little while to kind of get oriented, but new year, new month, new week. Doing the TA takes a little bit longer typically. So what's my bias? I'm a little bit neutral to bullish. I don't like how far down it's come. I also am expecting a bit of a retracement. So I could go both ways. I'm not going to just start shorting the crap out of this thing, but I could definitely see some longs, especially with this trendline liquidity. Look at that beautiful trendline liquidity right there. We have some more right here. We just have all of this liquidity from the overnight session. So yeah, let's take a look. I'd love to see it come down and take something, like take this equal low down there. What time is it? 9:07. Okay. So it's moving it almost looks like 8:30 did the manipulation. So I'm wondering if 9:30 is going to be just be one stage continuation. So this is a one stage delivery where it just, if it chooses just to keep expanding like on a trend line, that's one stage, versus like this is two stage delivery. And then I have a trade if there's two stage delivery. So let's see, we're getting close to 9:30. Zoom in a little bit. Noting a lot of these volume imbalances on some of these candles. So here, that tells me that there's little volume. Whoa, look at that. So already we see an inversion right here. Nice little stop hunt. Took this tailless candle, tapped into that gap, tapped into this 15-minute gap. What I don't like, or I don't know where that really was. So I guess the 4-hour had no levels. The daily had no level. The weekly did tap into this weekly close. On the 1-hour, it created some equal lows right there, some more equal lows right there. Need to set this indicator so that way it doesn't show on the 1-hour. Then I won't have to do this again. All right, so let's see here. So we do have bullish SMT down at this low. ES came down into that 1-hour gap. 4-hour order block. So this is an order block right here. Nothing on the daily. So YM on the daily. No levels right there. YM on the 4-hour. Did tap into a fair value gap. On the 1-hour, it tapped into the fair value gap. So there's SMT here, which means NQ might not come for those equal lows quite yet, especially after this expansion. Let's get back to MNQ. And none of these gaps have even been tested. So, however, we flipped this fair value gap into resistance, but I feel like it might break. But we have such a huge wick. What is it? 115 ticks, so we could do this maybe. Although I typically like to wait. I don't like the 9:30 candle, but we shall see. There's 3R. Oops, wrong button. So I'm a little hesitant on this. My doubts on this are we do have some trend line liquidity below. My other doubt is it's 9:30, and I like to see another couple candles play out typically. But seeing this reaction, I like that. So let's see here, 2 contracts, 20 contracts, 40 contracts. I don't know how many contracts it's going to take. I forgot to use minis instead of micros when I set this session up. So 50, so 55, 54, 53, right there. So we'll just mark it in and let's see what happens. Ooh, coming for me. So first trade is a loss. So this red line is those equal lows that I pointed out, saying that I really would want to see those taken. But now at this point, we're in I think that was a weekly fair value gap. Tiny inversion, but I'm not interested in a long at this level. Maybe we could zoom up a little bit to a 2-minute. So the 4-hour did take that low. I think we have a new 1-hour candle, 4-hour candle transitioning over. And on the 1-hour, those equal lows are taken. So we do have bullish SMT forming. Zoom out a little bit, take a look. I kind of feel like it's more bearish, but there's this huge expansion towards sell side, and all of this inefficiency tapped into this weekly fair value gap. There's a daily volume imbalance. So we took all this 4-hour liquidity. There's a volume imbalance here, but it's been used a few times. There's a fair value gap here. It's been used a few times. There's no 1-hour gap. So this is just liquidity with no fair value gap. So here's a trade. It's kind of against my... Where did I see? Was it a 2-minute? Yeah, it was a 2-minute. I think I'm going to skip it. Here's the idea. It's all there. I just feel like I'm going to be off sides if it's not tapping into some level. I think it's going to take this liquidity and keep sinking. I could be totally wrong here. There's just so many juicy targets. And then there's a tailless candle down there. So we can look at the 4-hour, 1 hour. So none of this is, so even the 15-minute closed below the previous candle. There's just so many targets, and that's why I'm kind of like really wanting to look at this. It took that liquidity. So I don't feel like everything's lining up perfectly on this setup, but for some reason I think it's going to go. And that's where I'm struggling, where my logic is telling me don't take this setup, not enough looks right, but my gut tells me this thing is going to go. So I don't know. It's in the macro. Maybe I'm overthinking it, huh? What would you do? It just took those equal lows. All right, whatever. We'll try it. All right. So that's a nice expansion. Already hit these equal highs up in here. I'm going to go break even on this. I'm okay if it comes back and taps me out. So there we go. Let's see what happens. Kind of just consolidating. And there we go. So my gut was wrong, ultimately. I want to redo this actually and see. So yeah, my stop loss is placed somewhere right down in there. So yeah, there's no way I could have gotten 3R like at these equal highs, but that's okay. I accept that break-even trades are a part of it too. So yeah, I guess that's 2 trades for this day. And that means no more trades for me. That's my rule, 2 trades, including break-evens. If I don't get it in 2 trades, then I'm probably not on side. So yeah. I'm going to record these trades and then we'll move on. All right, so I got those trades recorded basically in TradeZella, which by the way, there's a link to TradeZella down below for back testing and live trade journaling. You can see I've reviewed the trades And I go in here and I have different attributes that I look at. I'm tracking the setup type, the expense reason, the time frame, the liquidity, bias, would I take it again, order flow, and things like that. In addition to the strategy criteria. Oh, interesting. Didn't save. It didn't save the stuff here. So let's do that. So there's a liquidity sweep. There was an SMT. There was a target. There was a macro. V-shaped. There was medium fair value, medium IFVG. There is a distribution leg fair value gap. And I'm not going to check the no smooth edges because the tail is candle. But what's interesting is if you note, when I reviewed this trade, I said, would I take it again? And I said no. And similarly, this was the first trade, that 931 long. And the second trade, the break-even trade. Okay, there we go. I did fill that out. I didn't finish this, I guess. So the expense reason, there's no expense because it was a break-even. I wouldn't take it again. It was, the daily time frame was unclear, 4 hour was unclear, and the 1 hour was kind of against the bias. So I recorded those trades, right? And I want to show you this. So really nothing would have won for me today. Break even times 1, offsides times 1. But more interestingly to me is I'm tracking the trades that I hesitate on. And what we can see is here are B trades that I hesitate but don't take. Maybe low A trades I'm hesitating on but do take. And then ultimately I'm tracking the win rate of these trades that I'm like hesitant on. And we can see that it's, relatively, well, 35% is slightly profitable for me. And so I'm kind of collecting this data to see how much discernment, if I'm being too picky or not on my trading. And if this percentage was higher, then I would probably start to say I'm being too picky and I need to loosen up my criteria for taking trades. However, at this point, I'm still collecting data and saying, I'm doing pretty good. But ultimately, I realized both of these trades were kind of low-grade setups that I took. And I was realizing it's because I actually haven't taken a trade in like 2 weeks. I took about 2 weeks off for the holidays, and this is really my first day back trading. So I was a little bit overzealous on these trades, and I'm glad I'm getting it out back testing versus live trading next week. So let's keep going. I'm not going to continue in this session because I already took 2 losses for today. So we're down to just the higher time frame levels. Let's go to the start of the next session and just see where we're at. I'm going to zoom out again. I want to get a clearer picture. So taking those all-time highs on the weekly chart here. So this is now looking a little bit like, well, candle's not closed, so that isn't an inversion yet. So we have this weekly fair value gap, and really there was this whole weekly range down to 50% of that. All right, zooming in on the daily. Really on the daily, we have so much liquidity. We have this level here too. So that's been taken. We have this volume imbalance here. Which technically is this gap. It's all this whole thing. 2 volume imbalances together are a suspension block. So I'm going to mark it like that. Holy moly, it's this 2 here. So we'll do this. Noting on the daily, there's no tail on this candle currently. And this is currently forming an imbalance that hasn't been mitigated yet. So keeping that in mind. So yeah, let's keep some of these drawings on. Maybe they'll help, maybe they won't, I don't know. And then we also do have this fair value gap here. That's not relevant. So I'm going to try to keep this as clean as I can. I don't want this inversion. I think that's enough for the higher time frames. All right, so the 4 hour here, let's see what What else going on? So it looks like YM is kind of the lagging asset. NQ leading asset with ES in the middle. And here, let's look at the 2 a.m. candle. So the 2 a.m. candle didn't really do anything, but looks like the 6 a.m. candle did do a stop hunt. And man, took this liquidity here, right this low. Tailless candle. There's lots of targets towards buy side, but I'm not sure if it's at a level I'm interested in a reversal. There does appear to be hourly SMT starting to form, or confirmed, excuse me, because this low here has closed. So there is bullish SMT. So London took Asia's high and low, and that can indicate the possibility for seek and destroy conditions for the New York AM session. So let's see what happens. I'm curious. I could be relatively open either way for shorts or longs, kind of depending on what the model looked like and where it was at. So as opposed to spending any more time thinking, I'm just going to get moving. Oh, got to mark the 930. And also, one thing I forgot. Come on. Was to mark the most important level I for me on the charts, which is the midnight open. We do have this breaker here. So price coming down into 3.5 standard deviations on that breaker. Below midnight open makes me want to long to midnight open. So let's see what happens. So 913 manipulated that low, the 8 o'clock low. Price is already moving a bit. Quite volatile already. Consolidation. All right, stop hunt. Might just rip for buy side. Oh, right there. So that's a ugly candle, similar to yesterday, the day before. Okay, so a little bit of seek and destroy. Nothing clear for me. So here it tapped into that daily volume imbalance. This is ugly, so I'm just going to avoid it personally. So it's high resistance liquidity run so far. We can see that candles are just zigzagging back and forth, doing this more than anything. What's the low resistance look like? It looks like this. So you can see the big difference between those two. All right. Oh, we got to check the news. 10 a.m. Wednesday ISM, and then 2 p.m. FOMC meeting minutes. The meeting minutes is not really a big deal. ISM and JOLTS, they're medium medium impact red folders. I know they're not orange folders, but in my mind, they're not some of the biggies. So they'll create some nice movement potentially at 10 a.m., which I normally mark that, but we know 10 a.m. is coming. Next candle. I don't like any of this. Here's an inversion. This might be a breaker, but I'm just not interested in that. So here, what we're kind of seeing, if you remember, I said possibility for seek and destroy, or at least lower probability conditions, even if it doesn't seek and destroy. And it looks like that's playing out. So here's a breaker. There's probably a 30-second inversion. I don't have seconds on this, do I? Minutes? Nope. All right. So here we can see a somewhat nice inversion. Not. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. So on the daily, we tapped into that volume imbalance right there, tapped into that level. So there's a daily volume imbalance. Here's a 4-hour fair value gap right there. Four-hour took the previous 4-hour low. So I don't like how this 1-hour candle took these 3 candles highs. That means there's less for targets. We do have a 15-minute C2, so this candle closed back in this body. Then this candle took this candle's low. Time-wise, what time is it? 10:43. So this candle might close as a C2 again. I guess that would make that a C1, then a C2. Or it could just dump. Let's look to see if there's any SMT. So YM, ES are dumping. I kind of feel like this is one of those days where it's just similar to yesterday, where it's just going to dump. So, oh, I didn't really look for SMT. We do have bullish SMT between this low and this low right here. This low and this low. There is, well, not confirmed, because if this candle goes lower and closes lower, then it's not confirmed. 15-minute does have a little gap there and a volume imbalance. We have a tailless candle here. So I'm gonna call this trade a, gosh, this is a tough one. This is probably a low A trade. I'm gonna skip it, I think. What is this, Wednesday? Yeah, let's look at ES real quick up in the 1 minute. ES looks better to me. Well, not necessarily. All right. MNQ. We do have some trendline liquidity locally. I mean, so let's see here. It's got a daily volume imbalance. It's got liquidity sweep, 4 hour. We do have unconfirmed 1 hour SMT. We do have a 15-minute C2 on both confirmed and unconfirmed. I'd be curious how TT Trades looks at that. Probably taking way too long to think about this, but that's the beauty about backtesting is we do get the ability to slow things down and really think things through and hone in our skills without the pressure of like making decisions by the minute. So on the weekly, we haven't yet tapped into that fair value gap, but on the daily, there's just all these gaps. So is this going to be the one it reverses from? Or is it going to be this one or this one? You know what I'm saying? And that's the discernment that I'm trying to, as a trader, like, figure out, because we have this no tail on today's candle. This gap is currently forming. So it makes sense to go up, even if it is going to be bearish for a little while longer. What would you do? This is non-farm week. This 1 hour candle is what bugs me out a bit. And the quality of price action hasn't been super clean. So like this low has been taken a bunch. I'm going to see, I want to add in maybe, let's see where this, so yeah, that low was already taken and it kind of fell and didn't want to go anywhere. Well, it's outside of macro. So, geez Louise, that was a long time to think about that. All right, so it's just going sideways anyway. Okay, so 1050, we closed above it outside of macro. Now we're building liquidity right down in here. See right here, those lows. We have a tailless candle. So tailless candle here. I think it's going to go lower. Okay, totally wrong. But, well, wrong for the moment. So okay. And we're coming towards lunchtime. So the long would have played out. The thing is, it was outside of my macro. So 45 by a lot. And then 51 closed way outside of that. And by the time it closed outside of the macro, I saw too many targets. So I'm going to add this as a trade that I skipped. And it was actually a winner. And I know this might not make tons of sense, but ultimately I'm tracking it in this column. I actually just noticed these break evens shouldn't be listed there. Okay, so that's interesting. Just took the break evens out. I just noticed they shouldn't be in there. So I'm going to change this to win, loss, and then I don't need this column, do I? I just need to note the break even trades because they don't matter. Okay. So that's interesting data. 42% is nothing to shake a stick at. So here, I'm making notes, internal targets. So just noting that it was slow to distribute, so it wasn't a V-shaped recovery, and then had all these targets built up internally to the model, which is why I didn't take it. All right, so coming up to 12 o'clock, which is pretty much when I'm done trading for the morning session. All right, so let's do this. Now this is non-farm. So that means that the PM sessions are going to be lower probability. In the case of today, I didn't take any trades. Price action was pretty poor for the AM session. We can check out the PM session real quick, I guess. Let's just put a line for 2 o'clock or 1:30. Drop down to the 15 minute or the 1 minute again, and let's see what happens. So in terms of the lunch hour, let's look for roughly 12 o'clock. Here's the low, there's the high. So here's our lunch session. And what we can do is we can use the lunch session, which I do from the 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock low to the 1 o'clock high, roughly. And obviously I'll adjust it a little bit if the low is further one way or the other, or the high is slightly outside of 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock. But these are going to give me some targets potentially, looking for a sweep. So there's an inversion, but not quite time. I want to see 2 o'clock hit. So, whoa, all right, 2 o'clock was the FOMC meeting minutes. So here's an inversion. It's not really big, so I'm going to skip it. And so there, it just wanted to distribute. I don't care if it does anything else. So it took we can see the lunch session, it took the low and then went for the high. That's the lunch rate model. But I didn't have entry criteria met within this. So So yeah, so for today, I guess to review, maybe I'll show you what I write down, but we can look at this and go, all right. So today was no trade. Let's see what time it was. What time was that? Is it 10:50? Yep, 10:50 macro. I was just hesitant, which is why I didn't take it. It was seek and destroy. And yeah. So let's move on to another day. Go to start of the New York session. And so today is Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. So it's Thursday. It's the day before non-farm. We have ADP and unemployment claims. So we do have 8:30 news. Lower probability conditions are to be expected for today, being before non-farm, but we shall see. Let's zoom out a little bit, just get some bearings. So the 4-hour still coming down into this looks like a previous new week opening gap. So let's get this marked up a little bit. There's 12 a.m. And we'll get 9:30 on here. And then we had, although the red folders were prior to 9:30, so coming down to that weekly fair value gap, it looks like. So let's play some candles. Equal lows, relative equal lows right there. So it's just consolidating. This is what I want to see before 9:30. I really like when it consolidates, gives me manipulation, and then a move like that. But I'm also not really that bullish at the moment, but we shall see. So it's kind of ugly. Yeah, I don't like it. It's ugly. And it goes. What's it do? What's it do? Let's see. Probably would have done something like that. So this would have been a break-even trade for me. Just wasn't a clear inversion in V-shaped recovery. Kind of seek and destroy. And I'm not even going to count that. That to me it wasn't a valid setup, really. I guess it was ugly, but I require a larger fair value gap. Okay, so nothing really here for today. Just seek and destroy and then one-sided delivery. Probably. So finally came back to the midnight open one of these days this week so far. retesting the midnight open. Outside of macro for if this were to be a long. I'm not stoked about it, which is a good idea because that was a losing trade. So yeah, so this is the day before non-farm. So do I count that? I didn't even really consider it. Like, I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna say, no model for today. That just didn't meet enough of the criteria. And we can just skip along to non-farm. Oh, I skipped the PM session intentionally. Of Thursday. The Thursday before non-farm is the PM session's pretty dang low probability, so I just tend to skip it. All right, so here we have unemployment claims. Looks like it sunk it down for sell side, and now it's just kind of floating up. So what do we got? Zooming in on the daily. We're finally in this daily volume imbalance. I also like to mark these gaps like that too, so I keep them all in mind. We still have that and that, that. So far away from this, I'll just clean it up a little bit. We're just gapping lower on the daily, on the 4 hour, in that imbalance. And then what's ES and YM doing? So we can see here's this gap here on NQ, and NQ's come down into that volume imbalance. ES is not, YM is not, so NQ is the heaviest asset. And that's a PD array SMT. Now let's look at the 4 hour here. Looks like the 2 a.m. candle took that low. And then this candle took that low. Really, it's, this is a significant level, in my opinion, to potentially reverse from, but I'm also not going to just switch to fully bullish perspective because look at this order flow. This reminds me of February of 2025, where it just relentlessly sold off, didn't give any short entries, gave some longs, and you generally got stomped on when you were in a long. So let's zoom in a little bit, 15-minute, find the 12 a.m. open. Now I think on today, there is, 10 a.m. news. And now we have two important levels here. This is the news high and the news low. And these are real high probability targets. So what time is it now? 9 o'clock and 9:30. So let's keep going. All right, news high was just taken. 12 a.m. is being retested. It's 8:30 to the manipulation. So to some extent, I'm expecting 9:30 for continuation. And ideally, if it gives me some kind of pullback, I could potentially get into something, but I also don't know if I'm stoked about that either. So 9:30, just floating upwards. So here's an inversion. Now this is where it's a little tricky because this is a zone where I could potentially see it reversing from this imbalance right here, this volume imbalance. But obviously that's against order flow. So sweeping these equal highs. So there's currently is some bearish SMT forming. Between NQ and YM. This isn't, YM is looking like it wants to form a 15-minute C2 candle. NQES does not. So I guess I'm looking at shorts. It's just kind of not very clean. So here's this inversion. It's not huge. We'll wait. We'll be patient. All right, so here's the 10 o'clock red folder. Which any short would have gotten stomped on. So very one-sided delivery today. That wasn't proper English. So here we are on the daily. And the weekly, just kind of checking it out. So this whole zone, even on the weekly, it's like it makes complete sense for a long, but no long for me. So no trades. Still got some time. Let's see what happens. So here's the 10 a.m. 4-hour candle. Same the 1-hour candle. Here's a 15-minute fair value gap. Didn't take that high on NQ, nor ES, nor YM. But I don't see any bullish SMT. So I'm kind of looking at this inversion for a continuation long, but I don't have any SMT. Would have been a loser anyway. So 12.10. Comes back to retest that 1 hour gap. So we can check the PM session out today. I think it's Friday, but it's possible it can be okay. So we'll go to the 15-minute chart. We'll mark out the 130, let's say. And we'll zoom forward. All right, so lunch was pretty much this zone right here. We'll just consider that lunch. And forming a little bit of a breaker down in here. And look at that, it goes for the lunch highs without me. There's no inversion. I bet there was on a 30-second chart, but we can see, just like we saw the other day, the lunch low was taken, and it goes for the lunch highs. But I had no model in there. Okay, so looking back, ending Friday here, what are the results? Let's look. So we have no model. I don't know if I saw that. Let's look here. So there really was no level up there, no liquidity. I didn't miss that. I didn't meet all my criteria. Maybe it would have met somebody's, but so that's no. And then here, you know, this guy right here, this continuation long. Um, maybe I would have set a limit order and done something like this. So there would have been no 3R on that trade. More than likely. I probably would have given it room for that candle. This tailless candle. So that would have been a break-even trade even if I had taken it. So really, no trades for today. So similar here. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So all right, so one stage, bullish one stage. There were no setups. And let's look back yesterday real quick. So Thursday was seek and destroy bullish, basically. And I just like to make these broad notes so that way I can come up with a theme for the week. So really, the theme for the week is few setups, lower quality PA, and it's, first week, lower quality price action, first week of January, and then non-farm. Better off just sitting on hands. So the mistakes, I was eager to take a trade after 2 weeks of no trading. Took 2 lower grade setups. And so that's kind of like, that's not too bad. Like if we look at this week on the dashboard, I'm doing 2024. So I'm down 1R on the week. And I think that was helpful because looking at this PA, it's not terrible. If we look at the 4-hour chart for this first week of January, where are we at? Monday, January 1st, right? Price is distributing. It's actually moving. And so that is what I'm looking for. Just, for the first criteria, price is actually moving and distributing. Now, it wasn't really giving entries and giving models. And on the lower time frames, we did have some seek and destroy. So maybe I need to note that too. So higher time frame was distributing. We had only a few setups. Lower quality PA on lower time frame. But nonetheless, kind of just better off sitting on my hands. Which is okay. That's some weeks. And I feel like I gleaned a lot from trading this first week of January here. And I'll take being down 1R. That's not the worst. That's totally recoverable. Trying to think if there's anything else to wrap this up. And on a non-farm week, that's also important too. Non-farm weeks can be dicey anyway. So I think I played it pretty well. I was not given too many options. I stayed conservative, and capital preservation is part of it too. So yeah, I guess that wraps up this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.